Assalamu alaikum students. This is your instructor Muhammad Umar Khatak for the subject Human Resource Management. This is our 16th lecture and today we'll be starting chapter number 7. And the discussion today would be on recruitment and method of recruitment. Recruitment. Now let's look at the learning objectives of the chapter. After studying this chapter, you should be able to discuss how to develop an effective recruiting program for an organization, describe the recruiting process, who does it, how recruiters do it, and where they find recruits. Differentiate between realistic and unrealistic job previews. Determine a cost-benefit analysis of recruiting program. Analyze different strategies that organization might use to recruit blue-collar, white-collar, managerial, technical, and professional applicants. Recruitment. Before an organization can fill a job vacancy, it must find people who not only are qualified for the position but also want the job. The recruiting process is one of the ways that an organization can deal with shortages in its human resources needs. Recruitment refers to organizational activities that influence the number of types of applicants who apply for a job and whether the applicants accept jobs that are offered. Recruitment is directly related to both human resource planning and selection. In addition, recruiting often represents the first contact between organizations and prospective employees. As such, care should be taken to create a positive first impression with these job applicants. Although recruitment can be quite expensive, organizations have not always treated it as systematically as other HR functions, such as selection. During the next decade, however, the importance of recruitment will probably increase for many organizations. Even with the increase in recession-based unemployment during the first decade of the 21st century, fears of looming tight labor markets in the United States and in other countries continue to plague organizations of all sizes. According to the recent survey, 80% of Japanese companies, 66% of Indian firms, 57% of Brazilian organizations, and 24% of Chinese employers are having difficulty hiring the right talent. Driven by the inevitable retirements of baby boomers, slow but steady economic growth, and fewer numbers of young people entering into the workforce, the labor shortage has caused many companies to develop retention strategies to hold on to their valued employees. For example, Hewlett Packard and Co. and Charles Schwab Corporation have preferred freezes or cut pay to avoid layoffs. Freightliners, a large truck manufacturer based in Portland, Oregon, developed strategies to identify a risk unique to key knowledge holders, to transfer their technical skills and customer knowledge before their retirement. Despite the fact that organization layoffs reach a 10-year high at the end of the 1990s, experts anticipate a growing number of labor shortages in high skill areas. The recruiting process begins with an attempt to find employees with the abilities and attitudes desired by the organization and to match them with the tasks to be performed. Whether potential employees will respond to the recruiting effort depends on the attitudes they have developed towards those tasks and the organization on the basis of their past social and working experience. Their perception of task will also be affected by the work climate in the organization. How difficult the recruiting job is depends on a number of factors. External influence such as government and union restrictions and the labor markets, plus the employer's requirements and candidates' preferences. External factors are also discussed, and the important interaction of organization as a recruiter and the employee as a recruit is examined. External influences. Government and union restrictions. Government regulations prohibiting discrimination in hiring and employment have a direct impact on recruiting practices. Government agencies can and do review the following information about recruiting to see if an organization has violated the law. List of recruitment sources such as job search website, employment agencies, civic organizations, schools for each job category. Recruiting advertising, estimates of the firm's employment needs for the coming year, statistics on the number of applications or applicants processed by demographic category, sex, race, and so on, and by job category or level, checklists to show what evidence was used to verify the legal right to work. Now, some of the legal guidelines for recruitment that we have established are: establish general guidelines for recruiters, make sure applicants complete, sign, and date an application for employment, including certain legal certifications, use outcome oriented job descriptions, utilize an offer letter that outlines the commitments the organization is prepared to keep, state the employment is at will, list salary, frequency, and pay increases and benefits, state conditions upon which the employment may be subject. Labor market conditions. Another external factor affecting recruiting is labor market conditions. If there is a surplus of labor at recruiting time, even informal attempts at recruiting will probably attract more than enough applicants. However, when full employment is nearly reached in an area, skillful and prolonged recruiting may be necessary to attract any applicants who fulfill the expectations of the organization. Obviously, how many applicants are available also depends on whether the economy is growing. When companies are not creating new jobs, there is often an oversupply of qualified labor. An employer can find out about the current employment picture in several ways. The Federal Department of Labor issues employment reports, and the state divisions of employment security and labor usually can provide information about specific types of employees. Location and composition of the labor force. As the number of legal requirements has increased, it has become important for an organization to analyze the composition of its workforce. Such an analysis is done to determine whether the firm's employment practices are discriminatory. The location of the organization and the relevant labor market will play a major role in the composition of the labor workforce. Regardless of the location of the organization, an aggressive diversity management program will be essential for organizations during the 21st century. Due in part to skill shortages, progressive organizations now understand that effective diversity management is an integral strategic tool for enhancing competitiveness. For diversity management to work, however, it must be valued by the organization. But for those organizations such as Allstate Insurance with the foresight to embrace diversity, the benefits can be tremendous in terms of outcomes ranging from higher productivity to increased customer satisfaction. After considering how external factors such as government, unions, labor market conditions, and composition of the workforce and location of the organization restrict recruiting options, the next step in understanding the recruiting process is to consider the interaction between the applicants and the organization in recruiting. Several aspects affect recruiting from organization's viewpoint. The recruiting requirements set organizational policies and procedure and the organization's image. The recruiting process necessarily begins with a detailed job descriptions and job specification. Without these, it is impossible for recruiters to determine how well any particular applicant fits the job. It should be made clear to the recruiter when requirements are absolutely essential and which are merely desirable. This can help the organization avoid unrealistic expectations for potential employees. An employer might expect applicants who finish first in their graduating class, are presidents of extracurricular activities, and have worked their way through school, are good looking, have 10 years experience, and are willing to work long hours for almost no money. Contrasting with the unrealistic approach, the effective organization examines the specifications that are absolutely necessary for the job. Then it uses these as it is beginning expectations for recruiters. In some organizations, HRM policies and practices affect recruiting and who is recruited. One of the most significant of these is promotion from within. For all practical purposes, this policy means that many organizations recruit from outside the organizations only at the initial hiring level. Most employees favor this approach. They feel this is a fair way to represent and present loyal employees and assure them of a secure future and a fair chance at promotion. Some employers also feel this practice helps protect trade secrets. The image of the employer generally held by the public can also affect recruitment. All else being equal, it should be easier for an organization with positive corporate image to attract and retain employees than an organization with a negative image. Thus, for those organizations that reach the top of the 2010 Fortune magazine most admired list, such as Apple, Google, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson and Johnson, and Amazon.com, the time and effort needed to recruit high quality workers may be less than for competitors who rank poorly. Recruitment should also be somewhat easier for companies that exude a strong community presence or positive name recognition. In some, the ideal job specification preferred by an organization may have to be adjusted to meet the realities of the labor market, government or union restrictions, the limitations of its policies and practices, and its image. If an inadequate number of high quality people apply, the organization may have to adjust the job to fit the best applicants or increase the recruiting efforts. Method of recruitment. Once an organization has decided it needs additional or replacement employees, it is faced with the decision of how to generate the necessary applications. The organization can look to sources internal to the company and, if necessary, to sources external to the company. Most organizations have to use both internal and external sources to generate sufficient number of applicants. Whenever there is an adequate supply of labor and skills inside the organization, it must effectively get its message across to external candidates. It is here that organizations' choice of a particular method of recruitment can make all the difference in the success of recruiting efforts. Internal recruitment, job postings. Organizations can make effective use of skills inventories for identifying internal applicants for job vacancies. It is difficult, however, for HR managers to be aware of all current employees who might be interested in the vacancy. To help with this problem, they use an approach called job posting. In the past, job posting was little more than the use of bulletin boards and company publications for advertising job openings. Today, however, job postings has become one of the more innovative recruiting techniques being used by organizations. Many companies now see job postings as an integrated component of an effective career management system. Some of the advantages of to posting jobs on a company's intranet are that it encourages managers to discuss career opportunities with employees. It motivates employees by showing that hard work and performance can result in promotion, makes internal promotion more transparent and fairer, and reinforces to employees that they need to continuously enhance their skills and experience. Internal moonlighting and employee referrals. If there is a short term shortage, Or if no great amount of additional work is necessary, the organization can use internal moonlighting. It could offer to pay bonuses of various types to people not on a time payroll to entire workers in a wanting to take on a second job. Nationally, it is estimated that approximately 6% of all employed people have held more than one job at the same time. Moonlighting is so common at some organizations that HR department consider issuing moonlighting policies that include the communication of performance expectations, prevention of conflict of interest, and protection of proprietary information. Before going outside to recruit, many organizations ask present employees to provide referrals by encouraging friends or relatives to apply. Some organizations even offer finder's fees in the form of monetary incentives for a successful referral. When used wisely, referrals of this kind can be a powerful recruiting technique. For example, Destination Hotels and Resort and Nintendo report that over half of their new hires are a result of employee referrals. This practice of relying on referrals by a predominantly white workforce rather than seeking new employees in the marketplace for jobs was found to be discriminating by some people. Now, there were a few cases filed by a lot of people on the basis of this discrimination. The case suggests that employees' referrals should be used cautiously. If the workforce is already racially or culturally imbalanced, it also suggests that it might not be wise to rely exclusively on referrals, but rather to use them as supplements to other kinds of recruiting activities. This is the end of the lecture. Thank you.